You'll never fully heal until you face it. Not the surface pain, not the polite stories you've told yourself for years, but that truth, the one buried deep in silence, the memory you never wanted to revisit, the version of yourself you had to abandon to survive. You see, healing isn't about pretending to be better. It's not a positive affirmation or a fresh routine. Real healing demands confrontation with the shadow of your own past. And Carl Jung knew this better than anyone. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So ask yourself, why do you react the way you do in love? Why do you sabotage peace the moment it shows up? Why does success feel like guilt and rest like laziness? It's because the child in you is still waiting, not for an apology, but for you to finally look them in the eyes and say, "I see you. I hear you, I believe you." If you feel stuck, numb, or exhausted, it's not weakness. It's the cost of carrying truths you were never taught how to hold. But what if today you stop running? What if you listen, not just to your thoughts, but to the body that tenses before your mind even speaks? Healing doesn't begin in comfort. It begins where the truth lives, right there, in the wound. Are you ready to go there? They say time heals all wounds. But that's only half the truth. Time passes, but wounds buried alive don't die. They wait. They wait for silence. They wait for stillness. They wait for you to finally stop pretending it didn't happen. Because no matter how much you smile, today your body remembers. The panic when someone raises their voice, the tension in your chest when love gets too close, the freeze in your throat when you want to say no, but something deeper whispers, "Stay quiet. Be good. Don't make it worse." Carl Jung didn't sugarcoat this. He didn't say healing was light and easy. He said it was confrontation with your shadow, with your forgotten inner child, and with the versions of you that fractured to survive. You see, most people are walking through life half-present, smiling at work, breaking down in private, craving connection, but terrified of being seen. Because somewhere in their timeline, pain was not acknowledged, tears were inconvenient, and survival meant silence. But silence is not healing. It's delay. What Jung taught us is that true freedom, the kind that doesn't depend on others, that doesn't shift with the mood of the room, only arrives when we integrate the parts of us we tried to exile. So if you've ever wondered, why am I still stuck if I've already survived it? This is why, because survival isn't healing, and healing starts with truth, the raw, messy, painful kind, the kind that finally lets you breathe again, not because it's easy, but because it's real. This is not just another motivational message. This is an invitation to stop bypassing the pain and start understanding what it's been trying to tell you all along. Let's go there. Let's walk into the shadow, not to relive it, but to reclaim what it took from you. You can't heal what you keep avoiding. There's a reason you still flinch when someone speaks with a certain tone, why your heart races when someone leaves your message on read, why you keep choosing people who mirror your old wounds, even when you know better. It's not because you're broken, it's because your pain hasn't been fully met. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Let that sink in, because the truth is, you can't heal what you haven't faced. You can't liberate what you still deny, and you'll never fully step into the life you were meant to live if you're still dragging invisible chains behind. Let's be honest, we were never taught to confront pain. We were taught to numb it, to spiritualize it, to smile through it, to pretend we're fine because that's what strong people do, right? But the truth? Strong people fall apart. Strong people feel everything. Strong people eventually realize ignoring the wound doesn't make it disappear. It makes it fester. Most of us carry a false story about ourselves, a narrative we unconsciously created during moments of fear, shame, or abandonment, moments when someone made us feel unworthy and we internalized it as truth. Maybe your story sounds like, "I'm too much. I ruin everything I touch. I have to be perfect to be loved. No one stays. I must earn my worth." And so, even in adulthood, that inner story keeps playing in the background. It shapes who you choose, what you tolerate, how you react, and what you believe you deserve. You over-apologize. You self-sabotage right before things get good. You freeze when conflict arises. You shrink when it's your time to shine. But it's not because you're flawed. It's because there's a younger version of you, a wounded child who is still running the show. Jung called this the shadow self, not evil, not bad, just the repressed, exiled parts of you that never got to fully exist, the parts you rejected to survive. And now those parts are asking to come home. That anxiety you feel, it's not just random, it's a message. That emptiness, it's not weakness. It's a signal. That recurring pattern in your relationships, it's not your destiny, it's a mirror begging you to look deeper. Healing isn't a destination, it's a return to what's always been waiting underneath the noise. But the first step, brutal honesty. You have to get real about what hurt you, what you lost, what you pretended didn't matter. You have to grieve the life you didn't get to live because of someone else's dysfunction. You have to mourn the innocence you had to bury just to make it through. This is the part no one wants to talk about, because it's not pretty. It's not Instagrammable. It's raw and messy and holy. But this is where your healing begins, in the moment you stop performing. Stop explaining. Stop trying to be okay. In the moment you finally whisper to yourself, I'm ready to feel this. Not because I want to stay here, but because I'm done running. Your healing doesn't require a perfect childhood. It doesn't require anyone else to change or apologize. It requires you to stop abandoning yourself every time it gets uncomfortable. And here's the thing most people won't tell you. You will have to revisit the pain, but not to drown in it, to understand it, to hold it, to unhook it from your identity. That's what Jung meant by making the unconscious conscious, bringing light to the places you were told to ignore, naming what you were taught to silence, because what stays hidden controls you. But what is seen can be transformed. You're not starting from scratch. You're returning to yourself, piece by piece, layer by layer, and every single tear, every uncomfortable truth is not a step backward. It's a sacred step toward freedom. When you stop hiding, you start reclaiming. Healing begins the moment you stop pretending it didn't matter. The abandonment, the criticism, the love that was withheld, the safety that was never offered, the words that cut deeper than any wound. You've been carrying them all, tucked into your nervous system, etched into the stories you tell yourself, buried beneath perfectionism, people-pleasing, or pretending you're fine. But here's the thing. You cannot positive mindset your way out of unprocessed pain. You cannot manifest your way into peace if your foundation is still fractured. Carl Jung knew this. That's why he spoke so often about integration, not bypassing, not covering up the cracks, but walking directly into them and pulling the gold from inside, because that's what your pain is, and a message in a bottle, and it's been waiting for you to open it. The wound is not just where it hurts. The wound is where you were once most alive, before the world told you to shut it down. Maybe that part of you was wild, or expressive, or emotional, or soft, or curious, and someone told you that it was too much, so you buried it. But that piece of you didn't die. It went underground. It became shadow. And now it's surfacing, not to punish you, but to return you to yourself. Let's be honest. You can't keep blaming your current reality on bad luck or not being enough when your system is still shaped around surviving, not thriving. Your relationships feel stuck because they're playing out old dynamics. You push people away the moment they get close, or cling to them out of fear they'll leave, because a younger version of you still believes that love must be earned, or that safety can vanish without warning. And the scariest part, sometimes we hold on to pain not because we like suffering, but because it's familiar, and familiarity feels like safety, even when it hurts. So healing becomes an act of rebellion. It's saying, no more living in a loop, no more handing my power to ghosts from my past, no more shrinking to fit someone else's comfort. It's returning to the scene of the original wound and refusing to leave yourself behind this time. It's letting your inner child speak, and not just speak, but scream if needed, because that child has been silenced long enough, dismissed as irrational, shamed for having needs, mocked for being vulnerable. But Jung knew the child holds the key, not because they're naive, but because they remember. They remember who you were before the mask, before the world told you who you had to be, before you performed your way into survival. Healing, then, isn't a destination you reach. It's a relationship you build with the parts of you that once felt unlovable. And it's slow. It doesn't happen in a weekend retreat or a single journal session. It happens on a Tuesday afternoon when you choose not to numb out. On a lonely night when you choose to stay with your discomfort instead of chasing distraction. In a difficult conversation where you finally say what you mean without fear of being abandoned. These are the moments that matter, because healing isn't found in perfection. It's found in presence, and presence is messy. It's full of contradictions, of grief, of breakthroughs that don't make sense, of memories that resurface without warning, of laughter in the middle of tears. But this is the soil where your truth grows, where your identity begins to reform, not from the opinions of others, but from the clarity of your own inner knowing. You start choosing differently, not out of fear, but out of alignment. You stop proving your worth. You stop chasing people who don't choose you. You stop needing validation from people who can't even validate themselves. And most of all, you start trusting your inner compass, even when the world doesn't understand it. This is what Jung meant by individuation, not becoming something new, but shedding the layers that never belonged to you in the first place. You're not broken. You're buried. And every time you meet yourself in truth, even when it's uncomfortable, you unearth more of who you truly are. So if you're in the middle of this journey and if you're feeling lost or unsure, know this: that is a sign you are healing, because for the first time, you're not hiding, you're not numbing, you're not performing, you're meeting life and yourself and exactly as you are. And from here, everything can change. What life feels like when you're finally free. There comes a moment in your healing journey when you wake up, and for the first time in years, there's no inner war waiting for you, no panic running in the background, no guilt for resting, no shame pulsing beneath your skin like static, just space, clarity, stillness. At first, it feels unfamiliar. Peace can be terrifying when all you've ever known is chaos. But then you realize this isn't emptiness. This is freedom. Freedom from the narratives that kept you stuck. Freedom from the need to fix yourself constantly. Freedom from being the version of you that was created to survive. Now you're learning to live, but not like before. Not from a place of proving or pleasing or performing. You're living from a different center, one that no longer seeks permission to exist. One that honors what feels good, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else. And here's the paradox. You stop trying to be positive all the time, and somehow you become lighter. You stop chasing happiness, and peace begins to rise. Naturally. That's because healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming someone real. And the more real you become, the more your life reflects it back to you. Relationships begin to shift. Not because you've become cold or distant, but because you've stopped tolerating crumbs and calling it love. You no longer beg to be chosen. You no longer explain your worth. You no longer apologize for needing boundaries. And people notice. Some will fall away, not because you pushed them out, but because they were never meant to stand in the light with you. Others will draw closer, mirroring the version of you that now feels safe, grounded, and whole. You no longer seek partners to fill the void. You seek mirrors that reflect your wholeness. You no longer shrink to be liked. You expand even if it makes others uncomfortable. And the best part? You stop being addicted to your own suffering. Yes, you'll still have hard days. Yes, triggers will come. But you won't collapse anymore. You'll respond, not react. You'll breathe instead of abandon yourself. Because now you know how to hold yourself. That's what healing gives you. Not perfection, but capacity. The ability to stay when things get uncomfortable. The wisdom to discern what's yours and what's projection. The courage to walk away from what no longer resonates. And the presence to be with what's real. Even joy. Especially joy. Because when you've lived in survival mode for years, joy feels unsafe, too vulnerable, too bright, too uncertain. But now you let it in. You laugh louder. You cry softer. You rest without guilt. You create without self-judgment. You begin to feel awe again, at sunlight filtering through your window, at the sound of your own breath, at the miracle of simply being here, alive, aware, healing. You stop asking life for guarantees. You stop needing everything to make sense. You surrender control, not because you've given up, but because you finally trust yourself to navigate whatever comes. This is not toxic positivity. This is embodied peace. It's not that bad things never happen. It's that you're no longer defined by them. You're no longer running from your past. You're no longer hijacked by your nervous system. You're no longer waiting for someone to save you. You've become your own home, and that changes everything. People begin to notice your energy. You walk differently. You speak with more presence. You take up space, not loudly but unshakably. And here's what shocks you most. You no longer need others to understand your journey. You're okay being misunderstood. You're okay being seen as different. You're okay saying no without explaining yourself, because your peace is no longer negotiable. You finally see the truth. You didn't need to fix yourself. You just needed to stop abandoning yourself. You didn't need more advice. You needed more self-compassion. You didn't need to be saved. You needed to remember your own power. And now that you have, you protect it, not with walls, but with discernment, with rituals, with space, with self-honesty. You begin to build a life that reflects the truth of who you are, not the illusion of who you thought you had to be. And it's quieter than you expected, slower, deeper, more sacred, because when you finally heal, you don't want more noise. You want presence, you want authenticity, you want truth, you want to feel alive, not because you're chasing highs, but because you've come home to yourself. You are not broken, you are becoming. Healing doesn't arrive with fireworks. It's not a single moment. It's a quiet unfolding. It's in the way you speak to yourself after you make a mistake, in how you pause before reacting, in how you honor what your body needs instead of pushing through. It's in the decisions no one sees, the ones where you choose peace over drama, presence over distraction, truth over performance. This journey isn't linear. Some days you'll feel like you're flying. Other days you'll feel like you're breaking all over again, but you won't give up, not this time. Because now you understand. Healing is not about becoming someone perfect. It's about shedding the layers that never belonged to you. The roles you played to survive, the masks you wore to be accepted, the beliefs you inherited from pain. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that's the journey you're on. You're not chasing healing anymore. You're embodying it. You're not looking for answers outside yourself. You're listening inward to the whispers you once ignored, to the truth you buried beneath trauma, to the soul that always knew who you really were. And the more you listen, the more you begin to remember. You are not too much. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are just beginning. And here's the truth. No one told you. You don't need to be healed to be loved. You don't need to be perfect to be seen. You don't need to be fixed to be enough. You're already enough. Not when, not if, now, in this exact breath. With all your scars, with all your softness, with all your strength. You've walked through hell and still found your way back to hope. You've learned how to sit with the storm and not lose yourself to it. You've touched the deepest parts of your pain and kept your heart open. That's not weakness, that's power. That's the kind of power no one can give you, and no one can take away. It's not loud. It's not performative. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply is unshakable, sacred, real. So let this be your reminder. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. And if you're in a season where it all feels heavy again, where you're questioning everything, where you're afraid the pain is coming back, know this: relapse is part of the process. The old wounds echo not to punish you, but to ask, will you abandon yourself again, or will you stay this time? Stay. Breathe. Be gentle. Healing isn't about never hurting again. It's about never abandoning yourself when you do. You're learning to be the one you needed, to hold space for your inner child, to stop running from the shadows and start integrating them, to trust your timing, to trust your truth, And most importantly, to trust yourself. Because deep down, beneath all the noise, beneath all the fear, beneath all the programming, there is a light in you that has never gone out. It waited for this moment. And now it's time to protect it, to honor it, to live from it. So take this breath as a sacred moment. You've made it this far. Not everyone does. You chose courage over comfort. You chose healing over hiding. You chose truth over illusion. And from here, everything begins to shift. You'll love differently. You'll speak differently. You'll walk through the world differently. Because you are different. You are home. If this message found you at the right time, it's because your soul was ready. In the pinned comment, you'll find a resource, a powerful ebook. I created based on everything I've lived, studied, and tested. It's not theory, it's transformation. A guide to emotional healing, reconnecting with your inner child, and finally feeling safe inside yourself. If you've been searching for a deeper understanding of your mind, your patterns, your purpose, this will help you go further. And if this message spoke to your heart, please subscribe to this channel. There's more coming, and I'd love to walk this path with you. You are not alone anymore. You never were.